computer engineering from Johns Hopkins University, USA, and an MBA from the University of Calabar, Nigeria, then you know that you are in for a very special treat. Now, I'm talking about our next speaker, Professor Ndubuisi Ekekwe, a Nigerian inventor, engineer, author, and entrepreneur. He is the founder of First Atlantic Semiconductors and Microelectronics, which is West Africa's leading embedded systems company. He invented and patented a robotic system, which was later acquired by the US government. Professor Ekekwe has also held professorships in Carnegie Mellon University and Babcock University. His working experience includes Analog Devices Core, where he co-designed a generation accelerometer for the iPhone and created the company's first wafer-level chip-scale package for the inertial sensor. You know what? In plain English, let me just break this down to you. If you're using an iPhone right now, then rest assured that Professor Ekekwe was part of that success story. So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me a true genius, Professor Ndubuisi Ekekwe.
So thank you so much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's quite a moment and a great privilege to have this opportunity of speaking before you all in this capacity. Thank you so much, Fidelity Bank, for the moment. Thank you for what you stand for our beautiful nation and our economy. I want to also stand on existing protocol recognizing the Vice President of our nation, represented here, the Central Bank Governor of a beautiful country, and my guest speakers here. So I will have a conversation here. I've titled it, The New CBN Forest Policy, the path to $2 trillion GDP. I don't know if I can share my slide, just about 4 slides, if it's possible. I can share a slide. Is it possible, admin, for me to share the slide, please? Or it's not? Okay, great. So thank you so much. So, okay, great. So call it the new CBN forest policy, the path to $2 trillion GDP for Nigeria. And of course, we know that we are not there at the moment, but looking at the redesigns and the trajectory, I do believe vividly that Nigeria should be a $2 trillion economy today. So to begin this, I'll take you back a little bit to history. If you go back more than 2,000 years of GDPs around nations, I'm using the GDP of China and the GDP of United States of America for illustrative purpose here. So what you see here is that before 1600, the GDPs of China and the GDP of United States of America, both of them were largely flat. And if you look at the gross world products, aggregate of all GDPs on Earth, then everything was flat. The implication was that the GDP was not growing, the economies were not growing. And just like that, the per capita income was actually decelerating. So because if you divide the GDP in a growing population over time, it means that a generation of people are getting poorer across generations, because the population was increasing even when GDP was not appreciated. So that was the time, if you remember back in your secondary school biology class or your secondary school agricultural science class, there was a man called Reverend Martins. He came with this postulation that the world population was growing geometrically while the food production was growing in arithmetic progression. In other words, if that construct should continue, a time will come when man or woman, of course, will starve to death. But something started happening around here, just at the birth of America. The GDP of the United States started moving in an exponential form, and China later on started that party. Unfortunately, not all parts of the world were able to connect into this rapid translation from a largely flattened GDP into one that became exponential in growth. To a large extent, our beautiful nation, Nigeria, is still tethered to this flattened GDP. And GDPs that are in that constructs are societies of inventions and societies that do not have innovation. But the GDPs of nations that have shown these exponential capabilities are nations that have innovation. So what is an inventive society? An inventive society is a society of ideas. Everyone has an idea how to fix electricity in Nigeria. Everyone has an idea how to provide pipe-borne water in my village in Abia. Everyone knows all the solutions, but wait for the next week, wait for the next month, wait for the next year. No product or service available in the market. So in the beer parlors, in Molwe parks, people are talking about solutions to Nigeria, solutions for Nigeria, but you can't find those solutions for you to make use of them. So what is happening here is that Nigeria has the characteristics of an inventive society, a society of largely more ideas without products or services. So the question here is this: how do we transition from an inventive nation to an innovation nation? Because it's only when we can do that, that is the time our GDP will now begin to ramp up to accommodate the population growth that we are seeing in the beautiful country. So in this conversation here, I want to believe that the diaspora, the people that we have actually invested, most of them, we gave them free scholarship in universities in Nigeria. We subsidize their education. And as soon as they graduate. Hello?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Please go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I can't understand what happened.
It's okay, we understand.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so as I was trying to explain here, that the key thing here, can you hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead. Prof.
Okay, sorry about that. So the challenge here is, how do we transition from this inventive society into an innovation society? And one of the key elements of doing that is looking at capital, which is a very critical element when you look at the factors of production. No, our nation, Nigeria, has knowledge. I mean, there are very brilliant people in the country. So from that angle, we have some of the most fundamental rudiments necessary for us to now move from that inventive society to an innovation society. Then there is also that entrepreneurial capitalism. Across the nation, we have young people who are risk takers, who can actually take us into that mountaintop if we give them the necessary capabilities and things they need to make that translation. So we saw when the National Bureau of Statistics reported that out of 26 countries, out of the 36 states we have in the nation, that 26 of them did not report any foreign direct investments. In short, Adamawa State was included as one of the states in the nation that had a foreign direct investment. And what did he do to qualify for that? Adamawa State received $20,000 as foreign direct investments in the year 2020. So you see that even the foreign direct investments may not necessarily be the path to that innovation society. So diaspora capital, a concatenation of that remittance and diaspora investment, is something I believe vividly that very critical for our nation to see how we can bring that knowledge we have, bring that entrepreneurial capitalism, the spirit, we can do what we want to do and galvanize it together, and then we can build a beautiful country that we want. So coming into that, the new CBN policy is very, very catalytic. It's a very brilliant policy because it has removed the information asymmetry, which was usually the case. If you send in $1,000, by the time you are paid in Naira, you've lost a lot through the exchange rates. But the CBN has brought something that is safer and something that is also simpler. And it's going to open up a new vistas that many people will now use the formal instruments for them to now send money into the beautiful country. So, but that is not just going to be the only thing we need as a country. Because if you look at it very well, you see that Nigeria exports some of its best products, our young people. So we have very brilliant people that Nigeria exports, very brilliant young people as of the nation. And if you look at the growth trajectory we had in the early 1960s, My model says that Nigeria should be a $3 trillion by now, but we are less than 500 billion. In other words, we are off by more than 1.5 trillion. So our paralysis started around 1970s, late 1970s, when this trajectory of people leaving the country, including myself, unfortunately left. So the question is this: how can we, at the moment, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers, I think they said that in 2018, Nigeria received about $23 billion. I still believe that that number is very low, that we could actually be hitting about 23 billion, looking at 1.5 trillion that we have lost as a result of that migration that has been taking place in the nation. So the one thing there is this: Nigeria is just looking at $23 billion that will come into the country. But there are also other things that are happening. You know, I just gave an example. I have a patent with the US government acquired. They're going to use it in the space. No one is going to capture that as a contribution to Nigeria. I went to Futo. I actually attended university in Nigeria largely free. But right here, the best of the work I'm doing is America that is capturing that value. Then you now go into some senior fellows of Nigerian origin in NASA, in some of the finest companies in America. By the time you look at the aggregate and the composite of these elements, you see that Nigeria is not capturing any value from the diaspora. The 23 billion we think we are getting is absolutely nothing. So what are we going to do for that? So the CBN has done extremely well. Banks like Fidelity Bank is working extremely well to push these things. But I want us to go back to a construct that we use in startups. You know, I have about 15 startups I've invested in Lagos, in Nigeria generally. And there is something we do. We call it the one oasis and the double play strategy. In other words, in any business, you need to look for your best products. In any market, you need to look for your best products. And just like when you go into a desert, you have the oasis where the life of that particular inhabitants surrounds. The young people that are going into United States, going to Canada, they remain some of the finest the nation is giving the world. So the question here is, how do we capture value from them? And that is going to be a most exciting thing. So my point is this: how do we move from just waiting for them passively to remit $1,000, remit $2,000, to actively encouraging them by actually going wherever they are in order to make sure that they are not just passively dropping the little they don't need, but actually making decisions that they can invest in building the new nation. So I saw something like Diaspora Growth Nation Fund. It is something where the government will say, I am going to lose immediate benefits in order for us to have the capacity to actually build the nation. Because if we do not have capital, Nigeria cannot transition from that inventive society to innovation society, because capital is very critical for us to build the necessary things we need as a nation. You know, when we look at our standard of living, people can say things are not the way we would have wanted them to be. But you look at it, South Africa's budget is about $100-something billion, and South Africa has a population of 60 million people. Nigeria's budget is around 35 billion, and we are 3 times the size of South Africa. So in other words, most of our challenges are actually capital related. So if we can find a mechanism how we can unlock more capital, is going to be very critical. So how can we do that? I said that the diaspora offers us a very credible path how we can bring more capital into the country. So one thing here could be, just like Fidelity Bank is doing, if somebody invests through their system, and the government will say over 5 years, over 10 years, any dividends or any exit from that business, we don't have to tax it. We just make it largely free for you. You don't have to pay any tax on it. So by doing such, the government can now incentivize people to take conscious efforts as a diaspora to actually invest in the country. I do believe that if we do that, we can add an extra $60 billion on top of the 23 or so that we are receiving. And if extra $60 billion comes into the country, I promise you that things will begin to ramp up very, very well in the country. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This is just because I know that the time is very short, so I have to constrain this talk. Thank you. We have the ability, and I do believe that remittance offers us that promise, but we just have to take an active role to make sure that people living outside the nation can partner with those at the home team of very, very, very bold people so that we can build a country that all of us are expecting to build in Nigeria. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thank you, Professor Ekekwe, for
Thank
breaking
you,
that
Professor
down.
Ekekwe. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. The pathway to $2 trillion GDP for Nigeria. So he has basically shown us the way. Well, let's get started. Speaking of that, Fidelity Bank PLC, of course, has opportunities for you that you can leverage on to build this $2 trillion GDP for Nigeria. Why don't you take a look?
Banking in Nigeria from the diaspora is as easy as picking up your phone. Because once that's done, your access to multiple offerings from Fidelity Diaspora Banking is granted.
Open a Fidelity Diaspora account on fidelitybank.ng and enjoy peace of mind while living abroad.
We are Fidelity. We keep our word.
Well, that can be you actually chilling in that dream apartment. Why? Just because you bank with Fidelity Bank PLC. We are Fidelity. We keep our word. Now, it's time for a segment I'm particularly excited about, really. We've heard from amazing speakers, the Vice President, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the MD CEO of Fidelity Bank PLC, the head of NIDCOM, and so much more. But this is a time to rub minds. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the panel segment, and I have a capable hand to handle that. Rota Sodiri, my co-host, it's up to you now. Take us away.
Thank you so much, Kayode. Excellent stuff. Great to be here again at the Diaspora Webinar Series inaugural from Fidelity Bank. We've, of course, heard from Professor Ndubuisi Ekekwe, and now we're also going to be introducing our other panelists. Once more, I'm Rota Sodiri. I host the Global Business Report on Arise TV. It's great to be here once more. Professor Wale Suleiman is one of our panelists, and I want to tell you about him right now. Professor Wale Suleiman is an accomplished neurosurgeon and researcher. He's a skilled physician, executive, and leader, a philanthropist, and a successful entrepreneur. In recognition of his career exploits and meticulous services in Canada, he was conferred the Distinguished Canadian Citizen Award in 2019 by the Nigerian Canadian Association of Calgary, the NCAC. He founded, designed, and managed one of the most comprehensive multidisciplinary back and spine centers in the United States and transformed the Oster Department of Neurosurgery and Neurosciences from a two-person, get this, two-person practice in the US News and World Report to a top 25 neuroscience program in the United States. Incredible growth there. He's been involved in neurosurgery and spine surgeries in Nigeria and was appointed the special advisor on health matters to the Kwara state government from 2019 to 2020. So very much looking forward to hear from Professor Wale Suleiman. To the entertainment sector, Mr. Alistair Shoyode, he is the founder of Bright Entertainment Network, Ben TV, the first and longest running African and Caribbean focused television channel in the United Kingdom. He's educated in Nigeria and the United Kingdom, 15 years experience in business development management, European chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora organization, as the NIDO, which was set up by the government in 2000 to unite Nigerians overseas with a zeal to developing the nation from the diaspora. So, of course, inclusive, of course, we've already heard from Professor Ndubuisi Ekekwe. So those are our panelists, very, very eager to get into this discussion right now. So, of course, Professor Ekekwe, I want to start with you. We just heard your very, very, very illustrative speech. My first question to you is, you've been known to invest in about, I believe it's 33 companies in 4 continents. And you mentioned the number of startups you had in Lagos as well, which is in multiple teens. What, in your opinion, is driving the performance of Nigerian investments? For example, the stock exchange, 50% return, the Nigerian stock exchange last year, one of the best returns across the world. What exactly do you think is your experience is the driving factor and the attraction of the Nigerian investment space? Professor Ekekwe, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I think the most important element here is that the problems are still there. Provided the problems have not been solved, it has to be solved. So if the problems are still there, anyone that figures out a solution is the guy that is going to go and take over the castle. So when we look at the challenges in the nation, and you could figure out a pathway that you can go and solve that problem, and if you are very successful in fixing that friction, you win the prize. So I think that is the incentive why people are investing locally. And across most sectors, you could see that fintech is very strong, logistics is also there, the health tech sector, even in agriculture. So Nigeria has so many paralyses that any sector you pick, there is something you will like, if your mind is actually very open. Because there are people that cannot see that even right there where they are, there are golds and diamonds and that they can actually tap. It's just like what happened in Paystack. A lot of people did not believe that somebody could create within 5 years a $200 million business in Nigeria. But these guys did not pick that memo. And they went ahead and started that business. There was a startup I invested in November last year. Last week, they raised money at $7.2 million. So these guys were able to grow value of $7.2 million in less than 7 months or so. So there are latent opportunities in Nigeria, but you just have to believe and go and actually tap them.
So much for that, Professor Ndubuisi Ekekwe, for that answer there. Professor Wale Suleiman, I want to come to you. You're a proud diaspora account holder of Fidelity Bank. You've invested in healthcare. You're, of course, the chairman, CEO and chairman of RNZ Global Limited. What would a diaspora investor looking at Nigeria have to consider before putting their money where their mouth is and investing in Africa's largest economy? In your opinion, Professor Wale Suleiman.
Yeah, thank you very much. This has been a very enlightening program. Thank you, Fidelity, for putting this together. I think I'll be remiss if I don't mention some housekeeping stuff. So I'm one of those people that have actually returned to Nigeria. I haven't lived abroad for almost 30 years. I was doing well in my career as a neurosurgeon, as an academician, but I think coming back to Nigeria is one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I say that, but before I get into the details of your question, I think there's some housekeeping stuff that everybody that's these 3.1 thousand people, if you're thinking of coming back to Nigeria, there's some housekeeping stuff you need to do. And the first one is your accommodation. They sound very, very simple, but things that you need to make sure you make you comfortable when you're here. So accommodation, your vehicles, making sure you have enough savings that will last you 3 to 5 years, so that you're not coming to a market desperate and not thinking through it. And then making sure that you reconnect your network in Nigeria, the people you went to school with, connect to them, and then define how you're going to add value to the society. You have to define your niche and how you're going to add value to the society. And then I think one of the common mistakes we make, before we all went overseas, we planned very carefully to understand how things work, where we were going. Why not do the same thing when you're coming back here? Plan, 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 and apply the same amount of vigor, energy, and focus to be able to do what you need to do. So I think what we are, and that's exactly part of our strategy here. We have to be solution oriented. Instead of remitting money to be able to, for somebody for feed, why don't you remit your money to be project oriented, to be innovation, to fund innovation, to be able to actually. So when you look at the situation in Nigeria, when I used to come to Nigeria, just this last one, when you used to come to Nigeria, when I'm flying into Lagos and you look at the view you see, you're like, oh my God, where do you start? Which is glass half empty. But when I see that Lagos now, I see there's a lot of opportunities here. There's a lot of people that need something. Are you going to key into it and provide a solution to what they need? And you have to rethink how you put your finances together to actually align with what is possible in the country, not to import ideas from overseas. I'll stop there for now.
Wale Suleiman, talking about keying into opportunities. I want to piggyback on that answer and come to Mr. Alistair Shoyode. Mr. Shoyode, we just heard Professor Wale Suleiman talking about keying into opportunities, looking at being glass half full when flying into Lagos and looking at the landscape. So based on that, I want to ask you, what about the entertainment sector? How are folks, or how should folks in the diaspora be positioning themselves if they are viewing the entertainment sector in Nigeria, Nollywood and the like, for investment? Mr. Shoyode, are you with us? Okay, we're gonna, Mr. Shoyode, can you hear us? Are you with us?
Well, if I get your question right, what we need to do, those in the diaspora in terms of entertainment. Am I on the right question?
Correct, yes. So as far as the entertainment sector is concerned, what should the diaspora be looking at based on the opportunities that are there in your view?
Well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be on this summit. Wonderful speakers, and thank you very much for our chairman and our CEO, MD. And there is no doubt that the entertainment industry really has been the catalyst of exposing Nigeria to the global community. It is good what the African CEO mentioned about even having a fund and creative funding for people going into the movie industry and being creative and innovative. So showing up the Nigerian capacity, especially in Europe or in the diaspora, we have a tremendous opportunity. People like top producers that have been producing wonderful movies and creating story that the world needs to know. But I think it is very important as well to recognize that Africa as a whole, and Nigeria being the leading nation on the African continent, we need to do more in terms of creative awareness in marketing the nation to the global community. And now what we have seen is many nations will be looking inward into supporting their countries first before exporting and giving more grant to other nations. And it is a pleasure, of course, to be on the Fidelity Summit, because actually I have been working with Fidelity from a distance. I've attended some of the summit, especially on empowering youth in the country, from Kebbi State to Anambra State, and that initiative. It is
Okay, we're having a bit, we can definitely, I can hear where Mr. Shoyode is going, talking about the initiatives and the opportunities here. I think he just mentioned Kebbi State and a number of different states in Nigeria where he's, looked and seen opportunities. So I think I've had a little bit of a sound issue there, but I can definitely hear where Mr. Shoyode is going. So thank you so much for that answer, Mr. Shoyode. Professor Ekekwe, I want to come back to you. In your presentation, you were talking about moving from an inventive society to, I believe, an innovative society. I want to ask you, Professor Ekekwe, how much education plays into that transition? Fidelity Bank, for example, has made education a cornerstone of their CSR, corporate social responsibility initiative. So just based on that, Professor Ekekwe, how much of a role does education play in getting Nigeria from the inventive over to the innovative society that you envision in that presentation that you gave?
Yeah, so of course, education is very, very important. It's a very, very catalytic element. Can you hear? So education is very, very important. If you go back to that slide, I had knowledge as one of the elements necessary for us to have that translation. So to move from that inventive society to innovation society, you need knowledge. And whenever a country has the capacity to develop, acquire, and deploy knowledge, that country does well. The time of Egypt, Pharaoh was known as a man who was very knowledgeable. I mean, Egypt was the pioneer of modern civilization. And Egypt, the Pharaoh had the best astrologers and the best thinkers. From that, you went to the time of the Babylonians, to the time of the Roman Empire. What you see there, you can see that people were accumulating knowledge, and that accumulation of knowledge was very critical for them to advance as a people. Even the time of the Greek Empire, as they were writing those things on philosophy and logic, the Mediterranean Sea, from Coast Ireland, you will see the shipping lines they were building. So a nation cannot develop faster than its educational capability. So for Nigeria to advance from an inventive society to innovation society, Nigeria needs to have the capacity to accumulate knowledge and actually apply that knowledge. And just to say it simply here, there is no just shortcuts, because the people that lived during the inventive society, one thing there, they were actually brilliant people. The constructs we have today in physics and mathematics and chemistry, the fundamental elements, the people that created them died very poor. But where the capital comes in is that this guy is smart, he is a PhD graduate, he is very knowledgeable, he has gone to school, not necessarily a university, but a vocational school, or maybe the Igbo apprentice system. No matter what it is, there is knowledge being acquired. Does that person have capital to move from talking of an idea into creating product and services in the marketplace? So that capital is the instrument to do the translation from invention to innovation. So it has nothing to do with you are a smart guy. You could be a very brilliant person, but that does not end it. It has to do you have a product in the market that people can buy? If a society cannot produce those products and services, that society is nothing but an inventive society. For me, I have an equation. Innovation is equals to invention plus commercialization. If you have not commercialized it to fix a friction which exists in the market, it is not innovative. It's only when it's solving people's problem, that is the time you can baptize it with innovation. And that's what Nigeria needs. It's not just going to university. It's not just going to polytechnic. It could actually be learning from somebody, going to a vocational school. But that knowledge must be supported with capital for us to have that translation from invention to innovation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Professor Ndubuisi Ekekwe. Innovation is equal to invention plus commercialization. Very, very, very apt there. Professor Wale Suleiman, I want to come back to you. We're here because Fidelity Bank is creating a link from the diaspora to Nigeria. You talked about spending over 30 years overseas and then coming back here. Can you talk about patient capital for all the diasporans that are overseas that are looking to invest in Nigeria through the links provided by financial institutions like Fidelity Bank? How important is this for capital to be patient? Professor Wale Suleiman.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think Prof actually summarized it. You know, you could have the best ideas, but if you're not adding value, I think it's a matter of creating value and then forming partnerships so that you can actually have access. You can convince the people that are going to provide the funds to buy into your idea and see how it's going to be valuable to the society. Is going to be challenging. So I think that partnership with Fidelity Bank or any other financial institution is critical. But you have to understand we operate in an environment where everybody is very skeptical. And we're there's very plausible, very small amount of data to be able to actually create a very good financial modeling. So a lot of effort needs to go into making the case again, and also actually getting some local data to convince the people you want to partner with that this is a very viable project. Because there's some information saying people, for instance, I'll give you the issue of healthcare tourism, medical tourism. There's a lot of numbers out there that say, oh, people, $2 billion is being spent for medical tourism. Most of those numbers are not validated. So until you come on ground and you actually know the reality, I have a clinical practice. I'm an healthcare entrepreneur. I run R&Z Global for hospital management. It's actually more challenging than that. Now, if you now turn it upside down and say, okay, what are the things that people are looking for? How can I be a solution-oriented provider, right? And that's when you begin to solve problems. And also your financial modeling needs to reflect reality on the ground. So let's say, for instance, you want to go and open a diagnosis center in the United States, and maybe a CT scan is $2,000. Nobody can afford that here. So you have to now look at how you can remodel, remodel your finances to make sure you key into what people can afford and how you can become very lean and improve your processes and be very cost effective. So that people that can afford it can actually increase your volume to be able to be more profitable. So, but you can't do all of that by yourself. The partnership with financial institutions, they can help you through the processes. They can look at key areas, how you start, so that if you're gonna fail, you fail fast. And if you're gonna be successful, you have partners behind you that are actually flagging things to you before you get into trouble. So, but you can't have that patience. That's why I started with the housekeeping stuff. You can't have that patience if you don't take care of the housekeeping stuff, because it's a very slow process. There's something I talk about, which is playing to win or playing not to lose. You have to come with a mindset into Nigeria with playing to win. You can't come into this environment playing not to lose. If you're playing not to lose, every single obstacle you have, every single challenge you have, you want to get out. You find excuses to want to be able to bail out. But if you're playing to win, every obstacle is an opportunity to improve. Every failure is an opportunity to do it better next time. So I think, but through all of that, I think when you look at healthcare, for instance, if you look at equipment gaps, infrastructure gap, you look at manpower gap, you could say, well, Nigerian healthcare is very bad. Or you could say there's a lot of opportunities in Nigerian healthcare because there's a need, there's lots of needs. Now, the challenge is how do you make it viable business-wise? So those are some of the things that I think partnering with a financial institution will help you to be able to think through, especially if you don't have entrepreneurial experience. Thank you.
So much, Professor Wale Suleiman, for that in-depth answer. I got time for one more question. Mr. Alistair Shoyode, I want to bring you. I don't want to limit my questions to you to just entertainment. You have investments in sports, technology, consumer goods, industrial property, and so on. Mr. Shoyode, what's your advice for diasporans looking to come into Nigeria as far as investment is concerned? I'll give you the last word on that.
So this is why we have to be patient, you see, technology.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay, I'll take that question again, of course. Your comment is well noted about patience with technology. Mr. Alistair Shoyode, I was asking, you're not just known for the entertainment sector, you have investments in sports, technology, consumer goods. My question to you was, what should diasporans be looking at? What's your advice to diasporans looking to invest in Nigeria, Mr. Shoyode? Professor Ekekwe, I'll end with you. There's been discussions around the Diaspora Investment Fund, Professor Ekekwe. How do you think that would work?
Okay, I think just setting up a pure fund without major incentives may not necessarily bring that catalytic impact that we are hoping. I do believe vividly that if you set up a fund that can get independently from a venture capital firm or private equity firm, nothing will happen. So the point here is, can governments go the extra step by saying, if you are bringing $10,000 and you may have a dividend or there is an exit in any entity that that money is invested in, over 5 or 10 years, you don't have to pay tax, or you pay 50% of the associated tax. By having those incentives, the animalistic spirit of entrepreneurial capitalism will now start germinating in everybody. So people will now say, okay, I have $20,000 in my bank account in New York, but if I can take this money to Nigeria and it generates money, that's money, because even the profit part is not going to be taxed. So the fund, just alone without incentive, I don't think is going to unlock the opportunity. So it's more of what you see in Israel, in what you see in the United States. The US most times will do one thing. If you are a very rich man, you have made $1 million in a year, and now the government will say your tax rate, let's say, is 25%. But if you take $100,000 out of the 1 million and make a donation to a university, it moves you into another tax bracket, which possibly will make your tax very, very lower. So by stopping a rich man from giving money away in the United States, we are punishing him because he can't save money. So that is why they are very, very generous. So you see a man donating money to a school, they are very good. It's not that they don't, it's not that he's donating that money because he likes the school. He's donating the money because by donating to the school, he's also saving money somewhere. But the US government is very happy with it. So can Nigeria now, as a policy, say, okay, if this diaspora come, I am going to lose money, possibly, but if I give them that opportunity, that will help us to create more value over a long time for the nation. So instead of receiving 23 billion, we can unlock 90 billion, and that 90 billion will have a multiplier effect that will be very bigger in the country, because we have said we are not going to tax you, we are not going to pay all these things, and then people will be very interested in. I think those are the things that we need to do, not just setting up another fund that is absolutely has no difference from what is already in existence. I want to see the anchors, just the way they do it in India, just the way they do it in Israel, that will motivate me to make that decision over other alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ndubuisi Ekekwe. Also, thanks to Professor Wale Suleiman, and also to Mr. Alistair Shoyode. Very, very illustrative, very, very informative answers that I wish you could continue, or have to get pressed for time, have to push forward. So thank you, gentlemen, for a very, very informative panel discussion. Again, at this inaugural Diaspora webinar series brought to you all by Fidelity Bank. Now, there's a lot of questions still coming in at the quick Q&A box. A lot of those questions are about the products and services that Fidelity Bank is offering the Nigerians in the diaspora. Let's take a look at those right now. Fidelity Bank keeping their word, of course, as always. This is the inaugural Diaspora webinar series brought to you by Fidelity Bank. Now, for his closing remarks, I'm going to bring in the Acting Chief Digital Officer, Mr. Richard Madiegbo, for his remarks.
Thank you very much, Rotus. Thank you. This is actually very, very, and it's just an enlightening situation. It's an enlightening program. We just want to share some nuggets before we give our closing remarks. A couple of things that Prof said, Professor Ekekwe, which we would also like to just elucidate on. There are latent opportunities in Nigeria, but you just have to believe. I think just encapsulates everything that we want to say. So based on everything that has been discussed, there are areas we just want to touch on and also let our diasporans, go with those things as food for thought. The first is on the fixed income area. What we have seen is that a lot of investments that come into Nigeria basically come in as deposits, money market. But we've also seen that there are opportunities for the diasporans in federal government bonds, federal government savings bonds. You can invest as little as 5,000 naira in your federal government savings bonds, the treasury bills, and non-government bonds. So the law allows private entities to actually raise money. Fidelity has a bond issuance currently of 41.2 billion naira. So these are areas that you could come in and do business in Nigeria. In the capital market, one of the moderators, Rotus, just said capital market returned 50% last year, one of the best in the world. But it's one of the most hidden secrets in Nigeria. That is an area that we want to let the diasporans know. A lot of them have invested in the capital market. It's highly liquid, and there are opportunities both in capital gains, so these shares would appreciate in value, and in dividend payments. Nigeria is one of the most, potentially best investment spots for your capital market investments. Now for real estate, this is an area that we are very interested in. About 5 years ago, we introduced what we call the diaspora mortgage to diaspora professionals across the world, and it has been a huge success. Now we've had that running for 5 years, and basically the way it runs, it is tied to FICO, your FICO scores, Fair Isaac Corporation, and you are able to access these loans for upwards of 10 years at between 9% to 12%. So maybe it's slightly higher than what you would get overseas, but mostly better than what you will get in Nigeria. So that is an area we would want you to also look at. Come and invest at home. We just showed some videos that you can also take home. The Victoria Crest Estate, it's a lovely estate. It's something that you probably look at investing in. Is one of our partners, and we know that it's one of several estates within Nigeria that you can invest in. In the agri and export area, one of the things about Nigeria that people do not realize is that Nigeria is a vast expanse of land, 923,677 square kilometers with 200 million people. So a lot of opportunities in the agro and allied space is available to you. I mean, for most of us that have never lived in Nigeria, that is information for you. For those that have left from here to the US, I mean, I'm sure you know that the agri space used to be the major force in Nigerian capital, in Nigerian GDP. Right now, we want to bring that back, and a lot of good companies and capital is available for you. So you need to come back with your expertise and with your capital, and you are able to invest in this space and export some of this the produce. Finally, on the bank deposits. Now, other investment opportunities around investment in bank deposits, in savings. Fidelity Bank as a bank has introduced what we call the Global Edge. Now, the Global Edge is an investment product. that enables you invest at home and earn up to 5% interest returns for tenors of between $250,000 to $500,000 over a period of 1 year. So those are investment vehicles that we have introduced and are being accessed by several diasporans across the world. The commercial papers, the commodity trading, and mutual funds are also areas that you could look in and invest. We'll provide the advisory, we'll provide the guidance, and we will handhold you. We know that Nigeria is a big place. Some of you haven't been back home for a while. We're able to provide that guidance. And with that, I would go to my closing remarks. Thank you for tuning in. On behalf of the board and management of Fidelity Bank, we wish to appreciate everybody that has taken time off their busy schedules to attend this inaugural diaspora webinar. We wish to appreciate most profoundly our Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibadu, ably represented by Mrs. Yewande Sadiku, Director General of the Nigerian Investment Promotion Council. We also wish to appreciate our indefatigable Central Bank Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. We appreciate your taking time out of your very busy schedule to address us on these policies and their implications to our burgeoning diaspora community. Thank you very much, sir. So diasporans, you now know that when you remit money into Nigeria, you have 5 naira for every dollar. So that is good incentive for you. We extend our felicitations to the Chairman, CEO of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIGhtCom, Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa, for attending and delivering a goodwill message to her constituents, the diasporans. To all the speakers, Professor Benedict Okeorama, President of Afrexim Bank, Professor Ndubuisi Ekekwe, Professor Olawale Sulaiman, Diaspora Neurosurgeon, and Mr. Alistair Soyo, the CEO of Ben TV. We extend our most profound gratitude. To our audience, the global diaspora community, and our customers and friends back home, we say thank you for tuning in. We hope that your time with us has been worthwhile. For us, the conversation has only just commenced. We will continue to extend this through our channels as we seek to drive interest in investments back home. As they say, let the conversations continue. Till we meet again, we say, God bless Fidelity, God bless the federal government of Nigeria, and God bless our diasporans. Thank you very much.
All right. I can hear the applause. I can hear the applause. The applause is deserved. The applause, of course, to the acting chief digital officer, Mr. Richard Madiegbo. Thank you so much for those comments. Applause to everybody that has been a part of this historic diaspora webinar series brought to you by Fidelity Bank. I've been fun being a part of this. I really enjoyed the panel's discussion. I wish we could have gone on longer. So looking forward to the next webinar series from Fidelity Bank. I am once again Rotus Odiri, host of the Global Business Report on Arise TV. Kayode, it's been fun doing this with you.
Oh, absolutely. I believe when Mr. Madibo said he would meet again, he's referring to a second diaspora webinar series. So we look forward to that. We look forward to doing business with you at Fidelity Bank. And just before we go, quick thank you to the team behind the scenes. Yes, there's an amazing team behind the scenes. We have Ose, Vidal, and the rest of them. You've done a great job.
Fantastic job.
Oh, we hate to go, right? Oh, but we have to go, right?
We have to go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, diasporans. Thank you, my customers. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Ma. Bye-bye.
We are Fidelity. We keep our word.
Aren't there times when you're abroad and you wish some things could feel like you're back at home? Easy access to the local kiosk, fish pepper soup hangouts with the guys at sunset, fresh granite and roasted plantains to snack on in the middle of the day, and of course, seamless banking that suits your lifestyle. Well, thank goodness the Fidelity Diaspora account offers you the comfort of banking and keeping up with your finances back in Nigeria from wherever you are in the world. It's what we like to call home away from home. With a Fidelity Diaspora account, you get to enjoy complete value home and abroad. And there's more. You can have access to Diaspora Mortgage, high yield on your US dollar investment, withdraw cash from anywhere in the world with your Naira debit card and US dollar debit card, transfer funds easily to any bank account in Nigeria, track your banking activity in real time via internet banking and other digital banking channels, 24/7 access to a dedicated customer service support. It's easy, fast, safe, and convenient. Simply visit www.fidelitybank.ng to open a Fidelity Diaspora account today.